Now we have Omyo, Nareen. I think we were for many years talking to each other. I'm really glad you're coming to Noah after this dream trio of Get Your Guide, Home to Go, and now Omyo. Thank you so much for being with us. You hear me?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Marco, for the introduction. Hey, everyone. Just quickly sharing my screen here. After Johannes and Andre, Patrick, it's a hard act to follow. I'll see what I can do. So the theme here is sustainability, and in travel is a big part of the world. So all three of us, I guess, the last two companies included, are of course thinking about this every day. So we all know, and I don't need to talk about it much, travel changes the world. And I'll quickly touch on, the pandemic, in that, in the last 18 months, none of us were sitting here thinking, how do we make the world more sustainable? Or we were thinking heavily about, where do I go? How do I travel again? How do I create experiences for myself that enriches all of us? So it is very much, while sustainability is on our minds, travel is there even bigger in terms of our thought process. And in the last 18 months, we've all experienced so many moments of, oh, I wish I could go out, I wish I could get out and see a country, see a place, or experience another part of the world. So travel has changed the world, and it has changed the world, I think, because of the pandemic, even more to something that we had never imagined or we had taken for granted pre-pandemic. Quick stat here, in 2019, about 1.5 billion people traveled outside their home market. So that is a lot of human beings traveling. Travel enriches people, travel opens people's minds. There's, correlations being drawn to, to many factors in terms of travel reducing violence and et cetera. So with that in mind, travel is a big space. You've heard like two companies now talk about it, and it is a space that a lot of us are going to continue to operate in. So with that, maybe jumping into briefly about Omyo. The journey of Omyo for me started back in 2010, actually, personally, when I'm not European, as you probably know. I was trying to get from Paris to Amsterdam, and my mobile web spinner went on forever, couldn't buy the ticket, went to the kiosk. My American credit card did not work. And then stood in line for 45 minutes and bought a ticket. So that made me kind of wonder, why is it so hard to buy as simple as a train ticket? If you look at the European transport market, most of travel is fragmented typically by nationalistic borders. So you have trains, buses running across each geography, and it's a dense market. However, it's fragmented on nationalistic borders. So Paris, Amsterdam is a journey that I wanted to explore, but similar questions like, what's the best way to go from Naples to Amalfi, or Naples to Capri to take a ferry, or how do I get from Bilbao to Pamplona, or Berlin to Pamplona, etc. So if you take a step out of Europe into the global world, the same questions are asked by consumers. How do I get from Tokyo to Kyoto? How do I get from Rio to Sao Paulo, etc.? So in summary, what's happened is that the world of travel is divided in the OTA world, which is typically the airlines, hotels, and car rentals, and then ground transport, which is mostly regional or national, and not plugged into global distribution systems. So consumers don't have access to even knowledge on which company operates. Europeans don't know, like, what's the name of the train company that's in Switzerland or in Austria, how many train companies are in Spain, for example. So that's really what we try to do as Omyo, which is bring global travel industry. We very much focus on ground. About 90+% of our tickets happen on ground transport. We bring this inventory into a very, very simple consumer product. So we contract with underlying suppliers, we license their data, we build the technology on top in order to reduce the complexity for the consumer. And we issue about, most of our tickets are simple, normalized, QR codes that we create, and it's a very, very simple experience. And for most travel operators, rail, bus, ferries, car rental, car sharing, airport transfer, etc., most of them are fixed cost businesses by and large. So, and increasing capacity is the best way for them to improve yield and profitability. And this is really where we work with them quite heavily on a route basis and bring this yield and profitability to the supply. While on the consumer basis, we bring similar to what Patrick said, which is around, this global footprint in your own language, in your own currency. So today, Omio operates in 37 countries. We have about 1,000 plus suppliers that we plug in with. This is both Europe and North America. And we unify all of this inventory, whether it's like a train from Paris to Amsterdam or a ferry from, Naples to Capri. We bring the same simple product in 21 languages, 26 currencies, etc. And we've sold about 30 million tickets so far. In 2019, we bought a business called Rome to Rio. If you haven't tried it, please try it. It's the largest global travel planning tool. It is phenomenal in terms of travel content. With Rome to Rio, we have over 10,000 suppliers in pretty much 190 plus countries. So you can literally go from tiny village home address, any location to any location, and gives you instantly a mapping on the best options. And then Omio, the brand, focuses mainly on the underlying ticketing, distribution, and the journey itself, platforms, delays, cancellation, etc. for you to. So by and large, we try to make travel as simple as possible by bringing inventory that's not readily available, like airline or hotels, into a product that is unique from a consumer standpoint, but also has a huge underlying sustainability angle, which I'm going to touch on now. So from the COP26 conference, so this is some information we got, but this was well known before, which is travel is by and large responsible for about 29% of global emissions. So travel is a huge contributor to emissions, right? That said, how do we make travel more sustainable? The way to do it is, first of all, understanding how does travel contribute to global emissions and what parts of travel. And here's a quick kind of summary on, everyone knows flight, of course, is the worst emitter. Those of you traveling on NetJets, etc., you're not even included because the bar scales too heavily. But really, if you look at this, at the bottom of this graph is where your Eurostar is as an example, and Coach, which is in the UK buses, long distance buses. So you can see the massive difference between flight travel, car, which most 80% of the market is actually people driving their own car between locations, inside Germany, inside across borders, etc. And then flight industry. So first of all, this insight allows us to figure out what are ways we can drive more conscious decision making. Regardless of, as soon as the pandemic is over or when we can start travel again, consumers are going to travel unabated. So that means we have a huge boom in travel. I actually predict 2022 is going to be one of the biggest years of the travel industry. Consumers are going to get out and travel because they've been locked up. There's a huge amount of pent-up demand, and we're going to travel more than we have before. But we can travel more consciously. You don't always have to fly. You can make more conscious choices. And this is what Omio is about. It's not just allowing ground transport to surface in parallel to air, but it allows more conscious choices to make. So the first thing we do is give people these choices and empower them with the knowledge and the options for them to make more conscious decisions. An example of this is London-Paris. It's actually a fairly large flight route. A lot of people take flight. But guess what? If you take the Eurostar from London to Paris, it saves about 74% of carbon monoxide compared to a flight. And another example, Madrid, Barcelona, again, 78% reduction in carbon emissions. So if you look at it, and there's hundreds of these routes across Europe that we can pull data on, consumers, especially ones that are unaware of physical distances. Zurich, Milan is my favorite example, where a lot of people take flights, typically one stop, but it's actually a 3-hour train or a bus. So allowing comparison of modes of transport subconsciously already allows consumers to change their carbon footprint, because they generally change their mind based on time, price, and convenience. And we can show that the train is faster or the bus is faster door to door compared to air. You're able to subconsciously change. And the question next is, what we're working on is, how can we bring this data to a more conscious footprint, so the product actually tells you, hey, on this route, you're better off taking a train. Not only is it cheaper, but it's also far superior from a sustainability standpoint. So in summary, Omio inherently allows consumer choice. We do this through providing multiple modes of transport. Today, we operate with train, bus, flights, car sharing, airport transfer, ferries. So because we have all of these products, and different consumers have different needs at different points of time. So today's consumer need is, if I'm to take a flight, I go to Skyscanner or Kayak. A train, I go to a different website. Bus, I go to a different website. But at the end of it, it's the same consumer. And so allowing this choice also allows us to move towards more sustainable modes of transport for the consumer. And this is really what we try and create inherently within the product at Omio, and bring this simple, 2-click mobile QR codes to all of them. And then the last thing we also do is, we work quite actively in creating healthy markets. This is mainly focused on rail industry, where there's more, state-owned operators, and creating competition that allows. For us, what we have seen in markets where there's competition, there's more choice, better prices, and increased flexibility. That means people travel more on rail and bus if you have this kind of ecosystem built out. So we actually actively work on creating these healthy markets, because we strongly believe that this also allows more sustainable transport. So that's briefly about Omio, and happy to take any questions afterwards, or you can email me. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you to Berlin.